This Three Beards Media podcast may contain mature themes, and if you're not down with that, we got 3 words for you. Like the podcast. Nailed it!
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 15 of the Hawk's Eye View. I'm your co-host, Andrew Barber, with my co-host, Drew Shipley. We are live from the Gravitate Co-working Studio, a new sponsor now and going forward. Very thankful to them. We still have Revelton on board. We still have Kyle Lyman at Wintrust on board, but we've added a new sponsor in Gravitate. So appreciate them sponsoring all the shows here at Three Beards Media and our show as well. Drew, I know we didn't get a chance to recap the Iowa Rutgers football game because I went to the game and then I came down with the sickness the day after the game, probably because I was outside all day. You never know. But it was a great game to be at. I was in the north end zone where Iowa scored both of their touchdowns. I don't think it's a coincidence that Iowa scored offensive touchdowns and I was there to see it. So maybe I need to work my way back to Iowa City this week so we can see more offensive touchdowns.
You have seen twice as many offensive touchdowns as I have, right? Because I saw one.
Yeah, correct. So
yeah. And I had to go 1,000 miles to do it.
Yeah, and I had to go 100 miles to do
that's
it.
That's some bullshit, Andrew.
I'm sorry. Minimum effort for maximum output. That's my style. That's how I roll. Anyways, let's recap that game because the offense did show up. The defense showed up obviously in a big way as well, pitching the shutout. But I think a lot of that was a product of the offense being able to consistently move the ball. More than the offensive touchdowns, Iowa did not go 3 and out one single time in that football game.
I didn't realize that. That's awesome.
Yeah, that is a great stat, and that's real complementary football. When Kirk Ferentz talks about complementary football, that is exactly what we saw out of Iowa this past Saturday, and we need to see more of that in the final couple of games as well. 400 yards of offense for the first time in I don't know when. 402 yards of offense. 200 passing yards since I don't know when.
I believe I've seen this stat, and I believe it was early in the 21 season.
Okay.
I'd have to look into that. I saw a tweet that said that it said 400 yards first time since something. I feel like it was 2021.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
It's been a while. So that was really the highlight of the day. And other than that one bad interception at the end of the first half, I thought Deacon Hill played a great game.
Great. I mean, 200 yards passing, right? So
relative to what we've seen out of him in all of his starts prior to, great in a relative term, I guess is what I meant to say.
His career best.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yeah, career best. I'm going to play devil's advocate, Andrew. Not the best day for Torrey Taylor. Not the best day for Drew Stevens. Albeit he hit another 47-yarder. He also missed one as well. But I mean, 22-0, right? So I mean, I don't know what you can complain about.
Yeah, it's also the Caleb Brown emergence because he played 60 plus snaps He had an offensive touchdown. He had a 2-point conversion that was called back correctly. So, but I don't think it's any mistake that Caleb Brown got the ball several times and Iowa's offense took off as a result. He's a talented player, and they're going to need him to showcase his talent. He had 3 catches for 27 yards and a couple of rushes as well. Yeah, a couple of rushes for 20 yards. So that'll do it. He needs the ball more often in his hands, I think. Yeah, because he's a playmaker.
And he should have from the beginning, Andrew. Like everybody is like, well, what this huge 5-star, 4-star guy from Ohio State, man, insert him right into the offense. It's gonna be great, great explosive plays. And then like we don't play him.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of worried, right? So Deontay Vines is out again this week. Is that why he's getting the snaps now? And then maybe they're finally realizing, oh, maybe Caleb Brown is a little bit good at football. Like,
yeah.
Maybe there was a reason Ohio State fucking recruited him. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. He was a running back in high school, so he did have to adjust to the nuances of playing wide receiver because he had never done that before. So he has that potential, and he is a wide receiver now. And I think he's going to be good, and he's going to be a part of the starting lineup going forward, as he should be. So that's good. Do we want to gravitate to the bad news?
We might as well rip off the Band-Aid, Andrew. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
everybody and their dog knows by now, right? But
Right.
I mean, Cooper DeJean out for the rest of the season. Lower leg injury, broken tibia, from my understanding from Scott Docterman.
Yep.
I mean, out of all the injuries, Andrew, is this the biggest one? Cade McNamara, Luke Lachey, Eric All, the absence of Noah Shannon in general, albeit not injury, and now Cooper DeJean. Like, what?
This is, I don't know if this is the biggest one. It's certainly the toughest one to stomach. It's the biggest gut punch out of all of them. I ultimately think Cooper brought a fun factor to Iowa football that is gone now, I think. I don't know how much in the short term it will really impact Iowa in these final 2 regular season games. I think you and I kind of talked about this offline, but it impacts the hope of winning the Big Ten championship. If there was any hope, I think it was hinging on a couple of Cooper DeJean massive plays, and those are probably just gone now. But I have a lot of faith in Deshaun Lee. He's going to take over Cooper's place, and he played well in those first 2 games this year. Caden Weechen is going to take over at the punt returner spot. I would like to see Caleb Brown back there instead, but because he was going to be the punt returner for Ohio State before he left.
Sure.
So I feel like that would be good. But really the gut punch is that last game on Saturday is the last time we got to see Cooper DeJean in an Iowa uniform, and we didn't realize it. And there was obviously no way to know. You can't predict an injury like that, obviously. But man, it's just a lesson in appreciating the talented guys that are on this team when you have them, because you never know when it could just end in the snap of a finger. And that's what happened. So devastated for Coop, mainly, because I just hope it doesn't impact his health long-term, short-term, his NFL draft stock. This could have been a lot worse. Sounds like it's not horrible, but it could have been a lot worse. And so I'm thankful for that, at least.
Yeah, the problem, Andrew, is this is the second consecutive season that Cooper's not finishing, right? So, I mean, I think his draft stock might take a little tumble. Will he be ready for the combine? Well, his combine matter, right? Like, I don't remember. Did Sam Laporta end up in the combine after he missed his game?
Yep.
Okay. I'm not sure Cooper will be ready for that, like elite testing like that. I'm not sure. I think the tape will speak for itself. I think he might be better served not doing it. Maybe the 40-yard dash by itself, just the run, because you're going to need to see some elite speed for that position, right? Which, I mean, Riley Moss didn't have, but yet, he's playing, right?
Cooper has elite speed. I can tell you that.
No, for sure.
If he runs that, he's going to blow that out of the water.
I'm not 100% sure he doesn't come back like Desmond King style. Like,
well,
I don't know. Like, I'm not going to write it off like he's gone, man. Like, I'm just second consecutive season going out like that.
Well, remember last year he missed the rest of the Nebraska game, but he came back for the bowl game.
Sure. Well, yeah.
So,
okay. So, yeah, missing Nebraska for the second straight year. I'm sure they're just devastated over there in Lincoln, right?
Yeah. So
I don't know.
Let me pose that question to you then. What is the benefit of Cooper coming back? Because I don't really see one. So tell me, what's the benefit for him returning?
There isn't.
Yeah.
There really isn't. Selfishness on my part.
Yeah.
People have done it. Let's just say it this way, Andrew. People have done it. People have shocked the world coming back to Iowa for their last year. Desmond King, like I said, mentioned before, like people didn't expect him to come back. And fuck, he still ended up only being a 5th-round pick. Jim Thorpe Award winner, 5th-round pick, right? Like,
yep. Some of that had to do with his size, which Cooper has the size because he's 6'1".
And speaking of Desmond King, you got to see him last Saturday, right? He was
I did. He was the honorary captain.
Yep. So
yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, which leads me to my next point about this week's honorary captain. Noah Shannon.
Yes, sir. I like it.
Kirk Ferentz decided to make Noah Shannon his honorary captain. I think it's a great move, classy move. Wouldn't expect anything less than a classy move from Kirk Ferentz and Iowa football. Also kind of an FU to the NCAA by naming Noah Shannon an honorary captain and having him go out there on the field for his final game. And man, a year-long suspension over a $10 bet on a women's basketball game. It's one of those things I'll probably never get over. That stadium is going to be loud, man. I don't think I'll be there. I wish I could be there. But that stadium is going to be loud when Noah Shannon walks out there, as it should be.
Louder for Noah or Tory Taylor?
Yes. I don't know what else to say because it's going to be loud because we know it's the last time we'll see both those guys for sure because Tory Taylor announced that he's moving on.
I actually thought he was older than he is. So he's only 25 for an Aussie, right? So
yeah,
like he could have a decent 10-year career in the league.
Sure could. There's plenty of teams looking for good punters. He'll be one of the best almost instantly, I think.
Yeah, I mean, some of the older folks in the NFL these days are like having their career years too. Like Thomas Morstead, I think a couple weeks ago had like, I don't know, whatever reason, 9 punts, averaged over like 53. The man's like 40 years old. Like,
okay.
So you
tell me he's got like 15 years to go in the NFL.
Shit, he might. I mean, Shane Leckler for the Raiders, you remember him?
Yep.
Al Davis drafted him in the 2nd round. Right after he drafted Sebastian Janikowski in the 1st round in the same draft. Did you know that? Al Davis took a kicker in the 1st round and a punter in the 2nd round of the same draft.
So are you telling me that Al Davis is the founder of the punting is winning, essentially?
Dude, he might have been. Shane Leckler was pretty damn good. He was right along the all-time career punt average in the NFL until he exited from the Houston Texans just a few years ago. But man, he was around forever. Sebastian Janikowski was around forever. I mean, Janikowski, I'm not sure anybody had a bigger leg than him in the league at that time. Not necessarily drilling like field goals good, but he had the distance, man. Like, it was fun to watch. It was fun to watch. But yeah, maybe Al Davis was winning before it was. I don't know.
All right. Well, I don't have any visions of Tory Taylor getting drafted unless some team surprises me. Maybe, but probably not second round. If I had to guess,
no,
I had to guess. Probably not first round either.
Rest in peace, Al Davis.
Yeah. So day 3 maybe if he's gonna get drafted. Day 3 maybe.
That's right.
Anyways, let's flip on over to basketball. Both the teams had big weeks last week, the past week or so. The women, let's start with them. They faced number 8 Virginia Tech in Charlotte, and they won that game. It was a very close game, as I expected. Kind of. Well, I actually predicted a little bit more of a comfortable win. I think you predicted more of a close loss type scenario. So I was off in that sense, but Iowa was able to pull out the 4-point victory over Virginia Tech. And it was really just a Caitlin Clark masterclass that did it for Iowa. 44 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, only 1 turnover. I should be more surprised about that stat line than I am. My eyes should be popping out of my sockets at that stat line. But that's just a normal Caitlin Clark thing to do. And so I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah, so a lot of the haters of Caitlin Clark, right, will look at that stat line and was like, well, I could probably score that many points too if I put up 51 shots.
Yeah, she put up 31 shots.
Was it 30? Was it 31?
31, and she put up more than a point per shot. And you also have to understand that a lot of those were closely contested, and she was still drilling those.
Sure. But like, in a way, I understand their point. Like, volume scorer, right? You shoot more, you make more, right? Gabby Marshall scored 0 points in that game.
Yep.
And she kind of course corrected that in Cedar Falls on Sunday, which was good to see because we need her to be able to shoot. Hannah Stolke has been kicking ass, So
yeah. Well, foul trouble has been a bit of a concern with her,
which was my concern in that Virginia Tech game, which is why I picked them.
Yep, she did foul out.
Yeah, she did. But I mean, are you mad? Are you mad that they're not number 1?
No, not when you factor in that South Carolina beat 2 top 20 teams and smoked them by 30 points apiece. I'm not really upset. It doesn't really matter because Iowa took care of business against Virginia Tech. If they take care of business like I think they're going to in Big Ten season, Iowa has themselves in a spot where they're going to be a number 1 seed as long as they don't have any out of the blue losses. Yeah. If they lose to a ranked team in the Big Ten season, if they split with Indiana or something like that, but they take care of business pretty much elsewise, maybe lose a game to Maryland, maybe split with Maryland.
I think I predicted both of those. I think I predicted a split between both Indiana and Maryland. That's fine. What, you have 29-2 or whatever that was? Like,
yeah, if you do that and then you win the Big Ten championship again, which Iowa is more than fully capable of doing,
right?
That is basically they've done everything they needed to up until this point to earn themselves a number 1 seed, and I don't really see anything to suggest that Iowa is going to fall off that track too far. I guess upsets always happen, but I'm really cool with being number 2. It's fine, and as long as they keep winning, that's all they can do. That's all they can do.
You're right, Andrew. At the end of the day, I'm not mad either. Like, I mean, it's November 16th. Like, seriously, like,
yeah.
Tell me
Well-
how great the next Don Staley player for South Carolina is for all year long, whatever.
Right. And we'll see him in the national championship when it's a battle of 2 1 seeds, South Carolina, Iowa rematch. So
Ooh, hopefully.
I hope so. That'd
I
be
hope
great.
I hope LSU is long gone by then.
I get some vibes that are just off. I feel like that team could just absolutely implode.
Too many alphas.
Too many alphas.
Too many Barbies.
Too many people that want things their way or the highway. Let's talk about the men's team real quick. Took a loss to the Creighton Blue Jays on the road, the number 8 team. But I know there's no moral victories at all. You don't want to come away with moral victories, but the one thing that I took away was Creighton did not score a field goal for the last 6 minutes and 39 seconds. Their only points in that time frame were from the free throw line. And Iowa made a comeback. They were down by 17 in the second half, and as we've seen time and time again, say what you want about Fran McCaffrey, but his teams fight until the clock says 0. And they came back and they had a real chance. They were down 5, and Peyton Sandford absolutely got hacked. Right in front of Courtney Green, who's our least favorite person on this podcast, at least in terms of basketball officials.
Yeah, he's
Don't know how that man is still doing games.
terrible.
At least not in the Big Ten. We can shove him off to another conference, but yeah. So down 5, legitimately should have been at the line with the possibility of being down 2 with just under a minute left. End up losing the game by 8. Miss a couple free throws late as well. That kind of stunk. Otherwise, that margin could have been a little bit closer. But I'm encouraged by a lot of things from that game. I don't know how much of that game you watched or got to see. I know it was a very late tip-off for you, a 10 p.m. tip-off on a weeknight for you.
Yeah.
So did you stay up and watch, or what did you see? Because I came away mostly encouraged as you can be from a loss.
So what I can say, Andrew, is that is by far the most exciting half of college basketball I've seen this season. That was a lot of fun to watch. So to answer your question, I watched the first half, and then turned on to the radio broadcast laying in bed, roughly until Creighton put on that 8-0 or 10-0 run, and I turned it off at that point because it was 11:30, and I just felt like Creighton at the end of the day was just going to keep pulling away, which they did, and then they didn't, right? Like you just explained. Encouraged is the right word. Top 10 on the road, hung 84 points, 84, 92, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like the Achilles heel of every Fran team is defense, and I don't know what it is. Like, can I play defense like one time, like ever?
Yeah.
Know?
Well,
like,
I will.
This isn't fucking South Alabama A&T or like whatever we're playing, Augustana College and fucking Moline, Illinois. Like, it's not that team.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Right now, Iowa's defensive rating on Basketball Reference, college Basketball Reference, 98.3, which is good. The lower the better. 190th out of 363, which doesn't sound amazing, but last year 106.0 to 90th out of 363. You look at KenPom as well, 110 in defensive efficiency. Last year, Iowa was floating around close to 200 out of 363 teams on KenPom and defensive efficiency. This after the Creighton game, they were at 110 in the country. That is not great, not elite, not good. It's not even average. It's slightly below average. But what I will say is that this is better defense than what we've seen out of the past 3 or 4 years of Fran McCaffrey's team. Big reason for that is there's perimeter defense now. Bowen and Perkins have the capability playing defense on the perimeter, and really like Dembele and Freeman coming in on the inside as well. So I think there's improvement on defense and not a lot of drop off on offense, because we are the number 7 in offensive efficiency according to KenPom in the nation, which is France teams are basically always at least top 25, and
Yeah.
for the past 3 or 4 years they've basically been in that top 10 the whole time in offensive efficiency. So we're never concerned about the offense with Fran McCaffrey. And yeah, gave up 92 to Creighton, but Creighton is going to absolutely unload on everybody because that's what they do, because they're the best offense in the country.
I mean, they looked really good, Andrew. That might be it. Maybe you just take it on the chin and you just tried to outscore them. That was just part of the deal. And then, the foul discrepancy, at least in the first half that I saw, was outrageous, right? What was there not a foul called in like the first 7 minutes of the game against Creighton?
First 13 minutes.
Okay. I know it was something wild like that, but
it was very wild. So, but you expect a little bit of that going on the road.
Sure.
Again, Creighton, great team. Actually, one of my Final Four picks, actually a team that I think can win it all. No doubt can win it all.
Okay.
They have to get hot and stay hot for 6 games, but I think they're more than capable of staying hot for 6 games.
Well, I can tell you what, the Big East put a fucking thumping on the Big Ten in that challenge.
They did because they have Marquette as well, who is also a contender.
Beat Illinois at Illinois, right?
Yeah, and they have UConn, who is also a contender. The Big East has 3 schools at the top that can contend for a national championship.
And this is after, right? Like, this isn't the Big East of the 2000s, when like the 16-team league where like the Syracuse and all that stuff. We're talking about after the ACC raided the Big East and now come back and reloaded. Is Wichita State in the Big East, or are they Conference USA?
No. Yeah, they're American.
American. Also a decent
American for basketball.
Also a decent basketball conference, but yeah, this is as good as the Big East has been probably prior to the ACC thievery, is the way I'm going to put it. Like, they started conference realignment before people actually talked about it, honestly.
True. So my takeaway from that game also is the Big Ten is wide open behind Purdue. I think Purdue is the top team. I don't think there's a next tier, really. I think there's 8 or 9 teams right below Purdue, and Iowa is one of them. And I'm not going to say that Iowa's going to finish second, but it wouldn't surprise me. It would not surprise me that if Iowa finishes second. It also wouldn't surprise me if Iowa finishes 8th or 7th, because Fran McCaffrey hasn't been out of the top half since Jordan Bohannon's freshman season. So,
which was like a fucking decade ago.
Essentially, yes. So I think Iowa is going to finish anywhere from 2 to 7 in the Big Ten, just based off what I've seen early Big Ten. Michigan State, not as good as I expected. Illinois, not as good. Maryland, Wisconsin, all those teams maybe not as good as I expected.
Maryland got thumped, I'll tell you that.
1 and 2 losses to Davidson and UAB.
Yeah,
not good.
No, not good. I'm not mailing it in on Illinois yet. I told you when we went through the schedule that I thought that Illinois could be a Final Four team, representative out of the Big Ten. I mean, 2-possession game against Marquette. I mean, Marquette number 4 in the country, right? So
yeah,
early season basketball, a lot to be played. The Big Ten beats up a lot on themselves. I think they do themselves a big injustice playing on the very last game before Selection Sunday. I think they just get worn out. And then, again, we get embarrassed come tournament time. Purdue gets bounced. I can't – I don't back your Purdue pick. I don't – like Zach Edey, sure, man. Like he's a poor man's Luka Garza. He can't shoot from outside 10 feet. Like like
they brought back almost everyone from a team that won the regular season last year. Purdue is good in the regular season. Say about what you want about their tournament woes. Matt Painter has that team good to go for the regular season.
For the Big Ten, for sure. For the Big Ten, for sure. I'll give you that.
Yeah. My main point, though, was Iowa's going to be a contending team, I think.
Yeah, I agree. But at least be exciting as hell to watch. I mean,
for sure.
That first half against Creighton was phenomenal. Ben Creaky with the mid-range jumpers. I mean, when's the last time you've seen that? Like it's either layups, dunks, or threes, in the game anymore. No one pulls up from 15, 18 feet.
Yeah, he's a really underrated part of this team. I like his game.
The way he uses the glass, people don't do that anymore. Like old school bank shots, man. Like it was a lot of fun to watch, man. I like him a lot.
And also just the whole freshman class, like I talked about in the 2 opening games.
Yeah.
I was curious to see how they would do in that kind of an environment, and really they played without fear pretty much the whole time.
I thought it was a pass with flying colors for sure. I mean,
yeah. This might be Fran McCaffrey's best freshman class. Might be.
The sad part, if there was a sad part in that game, I thought Tony Perkins didn't play very well, particularly taking care of the basketball.
He turned it on late, but yeah, go ahead.
So, I mean, those turnovers add up, right? Turnovers, possessions, points off. When you're talking about 6-8 point game, I mean, 2 turnovers make it a 2-point game. So
yeah,
gonna have to cut those down a little bit for Tony. But I mean, like you said, top 10 on the road, 8-point loss. Like, there's nothing to be upset about. Didn't expect them to win. I really didn't. But you have a measuring stick here in early November of where they're at, and I think encouraged, like you said, is the word for it.
Peyton Sandfort only played 18 minutes, and a lot of that was because he picked up 2 quick fouls in the first half, and then also banged his head on the floor. Might have sustained a concussion in the second half. I think ideally Fran would play him closer to 30 minutes in a perfect world, and Sandfort was kind of cooking early on.
He was.
Looked like he might have exploded for like a 30-point night before the fouls caught him, before the injury caught him a little bit. So he only scored 11 points. I think that game changes a little bit if Sandfort's able to play a little bit more too.
Sure. So we haven't talked about this before, Andrew, together on the podcast, but I kind of want to know your take on the Fran McCaffrey automatic 2 foul to the bench for the rest of the half theory throughout his entire career.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of analytics that would show you that it's not maybe the best play always. I think you take him out for a bit, and then you can bring him back in certain situations. With as early as it happened, you can bring him back in stretches and kind of work around your timeouts, TV timeouts as well to kind of combat that.
Yeah, like the NBA does. They do offense for defense. Substitutions at free throws. As much as they've been on the fucking free throw line in the first half, like why not?
Yeah, that kind of a scenario. I think there's
like
ways...
you said, he was cooking. That killed the vibe a little bit.
I guess I understand Fran's take, but I don't always agree with it. And I think there's ways to manage that. and approach it differently. So, anything on any recap before we hear from Revelton and Kyle Lehman at Wintrust?
No, I think we're good.
All right, let's hear from our wonderful sponsors.
At Revelton Distilling Company, everyone has become a part of the Revelton family. From the Taylors and their daughter who helped perfect their award-winning gins, to the team who installed Lucy, our 33-foot-tall custom-made still, right down to the local farms that provide our coveted corn, and even the cows on those farms who consume our mash byproduct. Want to see the farm to flask come to life? Now you can tour Lucy and find out where we take Iowa's harvest and transform it into our finest spirits. Choose between a 45-minute tour or find out even more by scheduling a VIP behind-the-scenes tour to get the taste of the full Revelton experience. You can visit them at 1400 West Clay Street in Osceola, Iowa, or find all of Revelton's award-winning spirits at any local grocery or spirits retailer. Are you in the market for a new house and unsure of the mortgage process? Want to know that you have someone looking out for you? Kyle Lehman from Wintrust Mortgage is a down-to-earth, knowledgeable lender who can be there for you in your corner. He can work with you in any of the 50 states and is just what you need to expand your home search. Kyle will work with you through the entire process with little to no work from you. Take the worry of the mortgage process out of the equation so that you can focus on looking for your dream home. Contact Kyle at www.wintrust.com/Kyle-Lehman or call him at 515-473-0546.
All right, welcome back. Thank you to our wonderful sponsors. Done our look back. Let's look ahead. Iowa, Illinois football game coming. Illinois division rival. They beat Iowa last year in Champaign. It was a tough game, a 9-7 game, I believe. They're coming to Iowa City this year. They just came off of a shootout with Indiana, I believe a game that ended like 49-45 or something crazy like that.
In
They're
overtime, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And their backup quarterback led them to a victory over Indiana, just barely. But Luke Altmaier is back. That's their starting quarterback, and they're going back to him, which I'm a little bit surprised by because the backup has played so well. So that's a key thing to keep an eye on. And then Caden Fegan, who's their leading rusher, as a true freshman, Iowa potential recruit, because Iowa was big on this kid and wanted him to be on the team this year, is questionable to play, I believe. Might play, might not play. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. Illinois has a potential top 10 pick, probably the best defensive lineman prospect in Jerzon Newton, or I believe they call him Johnny Newton. But he plays on the interior of the D line, and he is by far the best part of that defense. If there is a good part of their defense, it's their defensive line on the interior. Otherwise, this Illinois defense leaks like a sieve. They allow a lot of yards, a lot of points, as we saw against a bad Indiana offense last week. They allow almost 155 rushing yards per game. So I know Iowa is not a great offense, but they showed signs of life against what I would determine to be a better defense than Illinois and Rutgers. I really like Iowa's matchup in this game. I don't want to give everything away, but I think these things kind of set up well for Iowa, especially if they're going to Altmaier. He's a very turnover-prone quarterback, and I know Cooper DeJean is injured, but we also know that Phil Parker is great in scheming things up, and is going to have his guys ready to be in a position to make plays when plays are there to be made. It's just a matter of can our guys catch those interceptions because if Altmaier's playing, they're coming. They're coming.
For sure. No, I think you're absolutely right, Andrew. The silver lining, if there is one, is that Cooper DeJean got hurt at practice on a Tuesday, right? So you know who's not hurt? That would be Phil Parker. And you give the man time to adjust and build and mold a game plan and not have to deal with it at real time. This didn't happen on the game field on Saturday. I think that's the silver lining in all of it, right? Nothing concerns me about Illinois, and I can't believe I'm even saying that because it is a rivalry game. It's a border state rivalry. Brett Bielema, Hawkeye, right? Tiger Hawk on the leg. So with that being said, it kind of reminds me of with Altmaier, like the Tommy Armstrong, like Adrian Martinez turnover machine at the quarterback position, like you said. Like they might feast for 3 or 4 picks. Castro might take one to the house. Like, do they even hit the red zone? Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
One thing I'll say is that Illinois wants to push the ball downfield. Well, to do that, you have to hold up against a defensive line, and I think our defensive line is good enough to collapse the pocket, to force mistakes, to force that ball to come out maybe a little bit off time. If there's one concern, it's Isaiah Williams. 900 receiving yards, 5 receiving touchdowns. He's a pretty good quality, I believe, NFL caliber wide receiver. I don't know where in the draft pecking order he's projected, but I think he's an NFL wide receiver. And that's the kind of guy that Cooper would maybe follow around. So if there's one concern, it's that, because I don't know if they'll put Harris or Lee. But I thought Harris played well last week. I feel like Harris can play well again. And I have a measure of confidence in Deshaun Lee as well. If we have to resort to anyone beyond that, maybe it's scary. But hopefully we don't. Punt returns, I don't think we can expect anything out of punt returns, and that's kind of where the Cooper loss comes into play, is maybe some field position things, because Weechin, while he is a fast player, he just doesn't have the same experience or maybe field vision back there, and also the mission is probably to just catch the ball, right? He might be waving fair catch a little bit more than what we like on Saturday, and that's
or an invalid fair catch.
probably not. They will probably all be valid if they're Caden Weechin, because my prediction is that he might be just back there just to wave his hand up, catch it, and call it a day.
Why even send anybody back there? Only bad things can happen.
Yeah, well, you can't do that. You don't want to lose.
Something that has always pissed me off about the Iowa punt return team, regardless of who it was, right? Regardless if it was Desmond King or Cooper DeJean, consistently fielding punts inside the 10-yard line. Like, let's see where that bounces. Like, what's the difference between the 4-yard line and the 10-yard line? Not a lot. What's the difference between the 10-yard line and the 25?
I like it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Wait, you like that they fair catch it inside the 10, or you like my idea?
No, I like your idea.
Okay.
I'm with you.
It drives me batty.
I support you. Yeah. I know what you're saying. It totally makes sense.
If you're gonna catch it, I need to see you run. I need a return.
I know what you're saying, and I'm also not going to question LeVar Woods.
No, but I don't know. More times than not, I feel like the ball's going into the end zone. Not everybody is Tory Taylor. Not everybody can kill it there at the 4-yard line.
That's true. I don't know anything about Illinois' punting situation. True. And how good or bad it is. I suppose I could look it up real quick.
Yeah, while you do that, Andrew, I'm going to say this. If we had to depend on Cooper DeJean to save our ass against Illinois, then we were already fucked. This is not a good football team.
I would agree.
Like Minnesota, not a good football team. No business losing that game.
It will not come down to
I don't think so.
The health of Cooper DeJean as to whether or not Iowa wins this football game. It's, can we run the ball against a team that gives up 155 yards of rushing per game on average? Can we run the ball on that team? If the answer is yes, and we can run close to that 150-yard mark, I think I saw a stat that like Iowa in the Kirk Ferentz era, they only have one loss when they ran for 100 yards inside of Kinnick.
Was it the Penn State game?
Might have been. Yeah, might have been a Penn State game. Yeah,
Saquon.
It took an amazing effort from that other team, right, to beat Iowa in that scenario. So if Iowa gets anywhere close to that 150-yard mark on the ground, I'm going to bet that there's a good chance that Iowa won that football game on Saturday.
For sure.
The other big thing is the math is simple for Iowa to win they've already clinched a share with their win last week. They've clinched a share because of how Minnesota, Nebraska, and Wisconsin have done. To represent and win it outright, they need to win one of the last two games. It'd be really nice to get this done at home. Just, you don't want to go to Nebraska, even though I don't think Nebraska is a good football team either. You don't want to have to go to Lincoln to clinch it. You want to get it done in front of the fans at home. Senior Day, Illinois, revenge for last year. Get it done for Coop, for Shannon, for Cade McNamara, Eric Hall, Luke Lachey. And the word of the year is adversity for Iowa football.
Yeah.
And overcoming it, if you want to put two words, because they've done that.
Yeah.
They have been hit with all kinds of adversity, both on the field, off the field, with the whole Brian Ferentz situation as well. And they've just responded and found a way to just keep on winning. It's really incredible.
You know, if it wasn't for the Northwestern coach who got the full-time gig, Kirk Ferentz would be up for Big Ten Coach of the Year.
Oh no! If Kirk Ferentz wins these last two games, he should win Big Ten Coach of the Year, and he should be in the conversation and possibly be winning National Coach of the Year.
Oh man!
I know the voters won't think that deep. That might be a bit of a hot take, but I'm gonna put it out there because going 10-2 with everything that Iowa's had against them is absolute Coach of the Year material, and I think Kirk Ferentz would be in it. I know people like to laugh at the offense, and you can do that, but it seems like the playoff committee has given us some respect.
Isn't that wild that they're 16 in the CFP but not ranked in the AP? What's going on here?
The CFP thinks with their brains, and the AP likes to write articles about the offense when there's three phases to the game. CFP committee chair said it best. There's three phases to the football game. Iowa is absolutely great in two of the three.
Did they actually ask them specifically about Iowa? I missed it.
Yeah, they did. And that's exactly what they said was, hey, there's three phases to a football game. It's like, oh, people that actually know and watch football think that Iowa is a good football team? Yeah, maybe we should agree with those folks.
Is Condoleezza Rice still on that committee?
I don't know about that. I don't know if she
I remember she was on like the very first.
Yeah, I think she was.
I remember that being a big deal because like she was like highly prominent politician, like seemed like a weird place for her to be, but she knew the game. Like she is stupid smart.
Barta was on the committee in 2015 when Iowa was undefeated.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
He was the head of the committee, right?
Yeah. And another point here is if Iowa wins this week, if Iowa beats Nebraska, very real possibility still, even with all the injuries, I think it's still a very real possibility that Iowa wins their last two games. there's a possibility that Iowa's top 10 in the college football playoff rankings heading into the Big Ten championship.
For the first time in CFP history, I think that they are like pro Big Ten. I think they respect and maybe even over gift the Big Ten in their rankings and seedings. I think so. I think Iowa's somewhere in between the 16 and unranked. Is that fair?
I think they belong exactly right where they are. I think I'm okay with exactly right where they are. We can go through it if you want to, but I think they're
what?
Just fine where they are.
When you say that, and I watched the reveal show Tuesday night, I looked at everybody ranked below them, and I thought to myself, Iowa can legitimately beat all those teams below them.
I totally agree. The one exception, maybe. I think maybe two exceptions.
Ole Miss?
Nope. Ole Miss is not below them.
Ole Miss is ahead of them. That's right.
Tennessee and Notre Dame might be the two exceptions.
And then the second half of that is, I don't think there's anybody above them they can beat.
I disagree. I think Louisville is massively overrated. I think Oregon State's massively overrated. And I would also throw Missouri in that as well. So
I don't know about Missouri, man. They took that down to a one possession game against Georgia. Come on now.
I would put Missouri as an overrated ball club. I've seen them play. They're not as good as everybody would think. I also think Georgia's not as good as everybody thinks as well. Louisville also has an awful loss to Pittsburgh, who is like a 3-win team. So
I mean that's kind of a rivalry game though.
True, but yeah, I'm not convinced about a few of the teams ahead of them. And I think a few of the teams ahead of them are going to take more losses. So that's why I think Iowa has a very good chance at being top 10. So
let me ask you this then, Andrew, and we can move on.
Okay.
When the dust settles in Indianapolis, December, 3rd, right?
December 2 is the game.
December 2.
Yep.
Is Iowa a New Year's 6 team?
Unfortunately, no, because you've got Ohio State and Michigan up. So loser of, whoever between those two does not represent the Big Ten East is getting to New Year's 6. So you've got one spot beyond the college football playoff because one of those teams is making it in. You've got one spot reserved for the New Year's 6 there, and probably another spot reserved for Penn State.
Right.
I think in order to make it, Iowa has to win the Big Ten championship, and I don't think either one of us expect that. I don't. But I would say that Iowa would be getting in New Year's 6 if that Minnesota outcome had turned out like it was supposed to.
What does Penn State have left, Andrew?
They have a game. Yeah, I can't remember who they're playing. Their last two.
Because is it a foregone conclusion they went out?
Home game against Rutgers at Michigan State.
It's a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, it's probably a foregone conclusion that they go 10-2.
Yeah.
So, a lot of it might also depend on what happens with some of those other teams. I'd have to go through all the schedules of all the teams above Iowa and say where do they end up. And also, maybe Iowa doesn't win the Big Ten championship, but if they have a good showing, if it's a close game somehow and they lose a close game, then maybe there's a scenario where 3 Big Ten teams get into Year 6 beyond the college football playoff. Maybe. Probably not, though.
I'm not necessarily counting out the fact that the Big Ten can take 2 college football playoff teams.
Then in that scenario, I would say automatically, yeah, Iowa probably is a New Year's 6.
You played for a
candidate.
Big Ten. You played for a Big Ten title. Penn State didn't. Yeah, they beat you head to head,
Yeah,
and
I
not beat fucking obliterated us.
Yep.
But
So curious how it'll all work out.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say somehow the Big Ten gets 2.
Yeah, I don't know if that's really that much of a limb. I don't know what would exactly have to happen.
Florida State would have to lose to Clemson. I think Clemson.
Could happen.
Oh no, it would be Louisville, wouldn't it? Be Louisville, Florida State.
Yeah.
Louisville. Shit.
For pinning our hopes on Louisville, I don't feel good about that. I do not feel good about that.
Alabama upsets Georgia.
I do feel good about that. I think that's very possible.
But then Alabama sneaks in number 4. There's no way they're not taking a one-loss Alabama.
In fact, I'm going to throw it out there. Alabama's going to beat Georgia.
So Alabama's in. We might as well write them in number 4.
Yeah, probably. All right. Let's move on. Last topic. Just before we end the show, prediction for Saturday. You start.
I think it's going to be another day of Iowa's opponent not finding the end zone. I think it's 17-6 Iowa. I think it's another under. I believe it's 30.5. Still holding strong at 30.5, which is also another top 5 all time. I think Iowa now owns all of them. 17-6 Iowa. Game's never in question. I think, like you said, rushing the ball over 150. I think that's nearly a lock. I don't know who it's going to be. I mean, that Caleb Johnson, what's going on there? You know,
he saw a lot of action in the second half.
In the second half, yeah. I mean, I'm with you. No question, no worries. Out of the end zone. 17-6 Iowa.
Yeah, I feel good about an Iowa win here. I think another week, another Caleb Brown touchdown. I like that. It's either going to be rushing or receiving because he could do either one. I think he's a game-breaking player.
Yep.
And he will score if you get the ball in his hands enough times. I think multiple touchdowns on the ground as well, and 200 rushing yards. So give me a couple of Drew Stevens field goals as well. And I also think Illinois does not find the end zone. 27-6 Iowa. I think this is a pretty convincing win. Got Iowa putting up a lot of points, but again, they're going to do most of their damage on the ground. Wow, we did have a comment on the show here. All right. Oh, nope. We got people. We got bots coming in. All right. We're trying not to get our show taken over by bots. Any last things to add before we end this show tonight?
I do. Yesterday, the Swarm Collective announced Double the Impact campaign that they are doing, matching dollar for dollar up to $1 million up to December 31st, matching by Bruce Rastetter and CEO Brad Heinrichs. Didn't get a chance to talk a lot about the Chicago game with you, Andrew, but I did get to meet Brad and saw Beth Getz pump up the crowd, the Swarm crowd at the Cubby Bear Bar in Wrigleyville. Brad's a really nice dude, down to earth. So I wanted to give a shout out to Swarm. That their campaign is going on. Massive campaign, man. 1 for 1 for up to $1 million to keep people, like Cade McNamara around. Maybe Cooper DeJean sees a little, I don't know. But either way, a great opportunity for Iowa fans to help chip in. The Swarm Collective, help Brad out. I know you already make a monthly donation, Andrew, I believe.
I do.
And also, are you familiar with Jim the Liquor King, Andrew?
I am very familiar with Jim the Liquor King. That is right in my neck of the woods. I live in Urbandale, so I'm over at his Hy-Vee Wine and Spirits. I've been there several times. So
listen to this. So his sister lives a half hour north of me here, and I made a drug deal with Jim the Liquor King, and
Ooh.
Swarm Golden Ale has made the state of Maryland. I just got to go meet Jim's brother-in-law about 15 minutes north of here. Go pick it up, Venmo a little money over. I got myself a couple cases of Swarm waiting for me.
Huge shout out to unofficial sponsor of the podcast, Jim the Liquor King.
Absolutely.
Maybe someday we'll get him as an official sponsor, or maybe we'll even get Jim on the show to just.
That's not a bad idea, man.
Yeah, maybe we should get Jim on the show.
Yeah.
Since he's a friend of the podcast,
He
quite
is a friend of the
clearly.
podcast. Yeah, for sure.
Making a good connection with Brad there too. I'm glad you got to meet him. I haven't met him yet, but yeah, I just really like the way Brad runs things. So
For sure.
And being willing to put his own money down on the table is really something. Yeah, it's a new day and age. I'm glad you brought it up. Whether you like this NIL thing or not, it's not going away, and you've got to have a good and functioning, a highly funded NIL to compete in the new world of college athletics, whether you like it or not. So now until the end of the year, make it a Christmas gift. Do whatever you got to do. Let's go ahead and match that million Hawk fans. So that's my challenge to all of you. So with that being said, I think we'll sign off for the night. Again, thank you to Gravitate Co-working. We're live from their studio. New sponsor, Revelton Distillery, Kyle Lehman at Wintrust Mortgage, Jim the Liquor King, friend of the podcast, and all of the friends and family that watch this. Everyone, we appreciate every single one of you. As always, listen to us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. We're on Twitch as well, Facebook. We're everywhere.
iHeartRadio now.
iHeartRadio as well. We're all over the place now.
We're pimping all over the world, Andrew. We're going.
You can't get away from us. No matter how hard you try, we are inevitable. You can find us anywhere. We appreciate each and every one of you. That'll do it for us tonight. Thanks for sticking with us with this extra long podcast. We will see you for a post-game wrap-up on either Saturday or Sunday. May have to work a couple things out there. But appreciate you all, and have a great night. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.